Howdy, Chris here, back in the garage today, and today I'm going to share with you a DIY project we're working on. This is a Jeep rear bumper cover, and a lot of you might have damage like this on your vehicle. I'm going to share with you how you can repair it today so it looks perfect. Let's dig into it. First of all, I want to thank everybody for all the support, for watching the videos, for commenting on the videos, and just supporting the channel in general. Your support is what motivates me and makes this YouTube channel possible. Supporting the channel is easy. Just subscribe, like, and comment down below. And you can also pick yourself up a Garage Noise Gear t-shirt at garagenoisegear.com. So for this repair, we're going to make it a true DIY repair. Now, we could remove this plastic piece, remove this bumper, tear it down, but we're trying to eliminate a lot of extra effort when you're doing this at home. So what we need to do is we need to prepare this crack and this damage on this plastic bumper cover. So Darius has got some 80 grit sandpaper here. We're smoothing out the crack and the damaged plastic around it. So once Darius has got that plastic kind of leveled out and smooth, we're going to use a plastic repair kit. Now, I picked this kit up off Amazon, and I'll leave a link in the description. They're really inexpensive, simple, and easy to use. They come with this heating iron, and then they come with some different types of plastic and this steel mesh. So this steel mesh is what we're going to reinforce that plastic with. But before we do that, we want to create a little bit of a V where that crack is, so we have some room to add some extra plastic material. So then what we're going to do is we're going to melt that mesh into that crack to strengthen it, and here I'm adding some plastic over top of it and smoothing it out with the 80 grit sandpaper. Make sure you mask off any chrome or trim that you don't want damaged from scratches, and we masked off this bezel here on this exhaust and the chrome trim at the top. We've now got this sanded and smoothed out and ready for some plastic repair filler. Now Darius is going to clean this with some isopropyl alcohol. We want to make sure it's nice and clean, and we'll prep out the surrounding area before we apply our plastic filler. So this is the plastic repair material we're using. This is SEM. It's a dual mix plastic filler. So it's a two-part product. Now you don't have to use this exact product up, but I will leave the links to all the products I'm using down in the description. I just find this works really well, but there are other products out there you can use. We'll mix this up till it's all one uniform color and there's no streaks in it, and then we'll apply it to this repair. This product sands and shapes easy, but we were not going to finish it with this product because this is not something you really finish it with. We'll finish it with another product, and I'll share with you what that is. Here it is after it's all filled. Now I'm going to use some 80 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to use small blocks because we want to keep this repair as small as possible. We don't have a large area to blend the color, so I'm knocking it down with this 80 grit sandpaper, getting it as flat and level as possible, but it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to apply another coat of filler over top of this. In this particular repair, there are 4 or 5 different body lines and contours that we need to account for, so I'm going to use a few different style blocks, some small blocks and a round block to get those shapes correct. Now we've got this roughed in and shaped. I'm going to do my finish filler work with some flexible glaze by USC. This is designed for bumper covers and flexible parts. I'm doing a little bit of creative masking here so I can highlight those body lines and start to shape those so we can get those correct. We repair the plastic. You saw us do that. We ground down a groove in there, and then we put some metal mesh in there, melted it into the plastic, and then we applied some plastic filler, and now we've got some flexible glaze over top of it. It's coming out real nice. We're going to block this out. I'll use some 180 grit sandpaper to block this out. We have a little bit of a ridge right here of a body line, a flat line, so we're trying to recreate that, block that flat. Of course, these are rounded, these edges, so we'll round those. So we just need to sand this smooth, get it level, and we can go ahead and mix up some 2K primer. And we're going to try and keep this as small as possible because I want to just paint this section here. We're trying to limit this to just this panel, and I think we're going to have a pretty good color match, so we should be able to do that fairly easily. So let's block this out and go from there. Well, I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of 80 grit to start with. Okay, so we need to put a coat right in here to to level this out a little bit. But if you look right here, there's a low area where that body line comes in that we need to fill. There's a little alcohol here. After about 10 minutes, our filler is ready to be block sanded, so we'll use some different shaped blocks to get all these body lines correct. We're going to be using 180 grit sandpaper. Of course, then we'll go over it with 320 before we apply our 2K urethane primer. All right, let's spray it down. Okay, so I got this all blocked out smooth. I feel like the repair is done really well. It's pretty straight, but we're going to clean it with some isopropyl alcohol, remove any dust or dirt, and then we'll get ready to apply some primer. And we always can block out the primer if we have any imperfections. Now, I want to remask this and clean up all those edges. So if there's any filler overhang on those edges, I want to clean those up, make sure they're nice and smooth before we apply our primer. Okay, so now we have this prepared for some primer. So what I'm going to do now is I've taped this all off. What we're going to do now is clean this really well. There's a lot of garbage and trash underneath here. We want to make sure this white is absolutely clean. We'll go ahead and sand all this with 600 grit sandpaper. This is where we're going to do our color, blend our color out, and then we're going to clear this entire section here. So we need to prepare this for clear coat, so we have good adhesion so it doesn't peel. We're going to sand in all these cracks and crevices the best we can. We'll get a foam pad or a gray scuff pad to get inside that crevice so it'll get good adhesion for the clear coat. White is notorious for being very difficult to get all that ground in dirt removed. So before we start sanding it, Darius is going over this with some light compound to buff out all that ground in dirt so it doesn't get trapped underneath our clear coat. And then he's going to go ahead and prepare it with 600 grit sandpaper. I mixed up some 2K urethane primer. This is the upol 2K urethane primer. Can be used as a high build primer, primer surfacer, or a sealer. Now I'm going to narrow down my fan pattern so we're very precise with where we're applying our primer. I've looped the edges of this paper so we don't get overspray on the areas that we're going to be blending. And we're just going to put 2 good coats of primer on it. We'll let that dry and then we'll block that out. Okay, so this is the next day. It's ready to be sanded. We're just going to smooth this out with some 320. Try and keep our body lines uniform, and then we'll prep this all out for paint. Okay, so we got a little piece of 320 here on this small block. So once we have this all blocked out, if everything seems to be good where there's no imperfections, no waves in our body filler, then we're going to go ahead and resand this with 600 grit sandpaper. That's going to refine those 320 grit scratches, and we'll apply our base and clear over that. We're using the Segola Mini Extreme paint gun. This is a touch-up gun along with a Segola DPC disposable cup system. This works perfect for what we're doing. Now, I sprayed the first coat on, but what I did is I sprayed from this direction to cover the primer only. We got one good coat on. We're going to let this flash off for about 10 minutes, and we'll spray our second coat on. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down with a Tack cloth. A Tack cloth is just a sticky cloth that's going to remove any particles of dust or anything that might have landed in your paint surface. Now, you always want to check your paint surface to make sure there's no particles of dust that are in the paint itself. If there are, you can lightly sand those out with a little bit of 600 grit sandpaper and then put another coat of base on it. A lot of times particles of dust and dirt get in your base coat and then they show through into your clear coat. Now you could do all this with some aerosol cans. You can get your car's color mixed up into an aerosol can. I know some O'Reilly's will do that for you. And you can also find some other companies online that will do that as well. And then use a Spray Max Glamour Clear in an aerosol can. That's a 2K clear coat that works really well, and it produces a beautiful looking finish. And if you were just looking to get your car cleaned up, it might be a good option for you. But if you are using a spray gun, you just want to have consistent speed, a consistent distance from the panel. You want to overlap your passes about 80%. And as far as a guideline for gun settings, I like to set my air pressure at about 20 to 25 PSI, somewhere in there. I do 2 turns out on the fluid volume, and then the fan pattern typically is wide open. On this repair, I did about 3 to 4 coats of base. I covered the primer first, made sure it wasn't transparent, and now we're working the blend on the edge of that repair area. For the clear coat, I'm going to use the YT160 low volume, low pressure paint gun. I'm going to set it up 2.5 turns out from close, fan pattern wide open. The air pressure, I set at about 30 PSI for clear coat. For clear coat, I like to spray about 4 to 5 inches away. We're not concerned about it being perfect on the first coat of clear. You have to put another coat of clear on, and that's where you can make your corrections if you need to. So we're going to be about 4 to 5 inches away. We're going to have a consistent speed and a consistent distance. We're going to overlap our passes again about 75 to 80%. And these are just guidelines, guys. You can always adjust however you need to. So we let this clear flash off for about 10 minutes, depending on the temperature. And now we're applying our second coat. Same thing with the second coat. I might move just a little bit slower in order to let more material land on the panel and let it slick out just a little bit better and flow out just a little bit better. You really don't need more than 2 coats of clear on a repair like this. Now, if you're doing a custom paint job, you might wet sand it down and then put a flow coat on it or something of that nature. But for something simple like this, 2 coats of clear is going to be sufficient. Listen, it came out beautiful. Look at the repair. It looks really good. Really happy with this repair. I hope you guys found this information helpful. If you did, support the channel by liking and subscribing. We'll see you next time on Garage Noise.